happy Monday. Welcome back to Science Time with Mrs. DeCrose. This is our last week of doing science together. Next week, I will be going back in person and we will be doing social studies all next week. So we're going to be switching gears from science to social studies. We will continue learning about severe weather this week, and then Friday, you get to be a meteorologist and you're going to do a forecast for us. It's going to be fun. So let's think about what we talked about last week. We learned about thunderstorms and we learned about tornadoes. Today, we're going to do another type of severe weather that is similar, which means kind of the same as a tornado. And it is a hurricane. Let me show you the page. Okay, this is a hurricane. And I picked hurricane to do next because it is similar to a tornado when a tornado spins in a circle. A hurricane also spins in a circle. You can see a picture. These are palm trees in the middle of a hurricane. You can see the leaves are all facing one direction. There's so much wind, just like a tornado, hurricanes have wind coming this way. And then here is a picture of a hurricane forming over in island area. Now, what is a hurricane? Can we get hurricanes in Colorado? No, we can't. Hurricanes are formed in the ocean. And we live in Colorado and we are not near an ocean. So we do not get them. Something about a hurricane different than a tornado, hurricanes form out in the ocean. So meteorologists can look at their radar and their satellites and they see the spinning motion and they can say, there's a hurricane coming. They follow it. Which way is it going? Is it going all the way this way? Is it going up a little bit of an angle? Is it going this way? And they can predict to the day, to the hour, when a hurricane is going to hit. Florida gets a lot of hurricanes. They are right there in the water. They have the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. The hurricanes, they can track when and where in Florida that hurricane might hit them. So different than a tornado. Tornadoes, we don't get a lot of warning. Hurricanes, so people have time to prepare. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our hurricanes. I'm going to read some of this story to you. So this is a nonfiction book, which means it is real. It's informative to teach us about hurricanes. This right here, this green piece of land is the state of Florida. And this is what a meteorologist would see. They would call this circle right here, they call that the eye of the hurricane. That's the middle. And it spins, and this whole thing spins and spins and spins and spins until it hits landfall. And this hurricane is filled with wind. It's filled with water from the ocean, rain. All of that is coming onto the land. And that's a really cool picture. You can see the eye of the hurricane. You see that circle part right in the middle. All right. Here is a picture of a hurricane from 1945 that shows the waves. So because there's so much water in this hurricane, it's like a flood that we talked about last week as well. So much water is getting pushed onto the land that could cause more disasters as well because there's too much water. The water isn't staying at the beach. Like if you go to the beach and there's that nice sand area during a hurricane, that's all gone. It's covered with water. Water is risen up until it ends and the water subsides. So what is a hurricane? So hurricanes are gigantic circular storms that can be hundreds of kilometers wide. When they occur in the Pacific Ocean over by California, they call them typhoons. In the Atlantic, they call them hurricanes. Winds are over 100 miles per hour, and there are lots of rain, and the high waves create lots of damage. Buildings are damaged, homes are damaged, and you have to be able to fix all of those. Hurricanes, interesting enough, get names. So every year, they start over with the letter A. So the first hurricane of this year, 2021, will have a name that has to do with A. They've done Hurricane Andrew. They're going to pick an A. The next hurricane that comes up in the entire Earth is going to have a B, a C, a D. And that's how they name and rate them and keep track of how severe they are. Tornadoes use the Fujita scale. These hurricanes actually get names. The center of a hurricane is called the eye, and then the winds become more and more intense or worse on the outside of it, and they call that the eye wall. So you can see sort of looking like a tornado, except again, this is forming over the ocean. You could get about an inch of rain an hour, and over several days, you could get almost a foot of rain. So think about a foot. It's a lot of rain. So this can show a little bit more of an illustration at the beach. So if you were at the beach, nice little ocean, you can sit out here. All of a sudden, it gets rainy. The winds are starting to move. The waves are bigger. Then comes the hurricane. You can see it's gone over the beach and into where that home is. All right, here's some pictures of how hurricanes are forming. They form again with high and low pressures, just like tornadoes, and the wind shifting as well. So again, they name the hurricanes. So they do have a list. They put out a list before the year starts and says this is going to be the A hurricane, the B hurricane. So in 2010, they had Alex, Bonnie, Colin, Danielle, Earl, Fiona, Gaston as they go through. Hopefully they don't make it to Z because that means they'd have 26 hurricanes, which would be a lot. So here's a picture of the Earth, and it's kind of a different view. Usually you have all of North America on this side, but a lot of hurricanes, you can see this is the equator. The equator is the middle of the Earth where it is the warmest. It's the furthest from the North Pole and the South Pole. So it is the warmest part of our Earth. Most hurricanes you see are forming over here. So hurricanes over here forming a lot towards Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, up towards that area. Over here, typhoons over here in the Pacific Ocean where Japan and China are. And then down in the Indian Ocean, they call them cyclones going that direction. So here again is another picture of North America. We live right where this mouse is, like right here in the middle. Ooh, look at that. So lots of hurricanes form out here. So again, if there's a hurricane forming over here, that tells us lots of time that it's coming. The hurricane's not just going to form right next to Florida and hit Florida. It forms out here in the ocean and then slowly makes its way. They'll know, is it heading for Florida or is it heading up higher? And then they could give warnings to people to evacuate. So in order for a tropical storm to be called a hurricane or a tropical storm to form, so there's one difference. Hurricanes mean you have at least 74 miles per hour. If you just have a really big storm, they call them tropical storms. Tropical because they're forming out in the ocean. So tropical storms, though, could change into a hurricane. They could get worse. Hurricanes could also get better. As a hurricane travels along the ocean towards the States, it could get lessened. It could lose its wind speed and then become a tropical storm. So here are just some images of hurricanes. So they do cause a lot of destruction. But we do study them and we can predict when they are going to happen. So people can board up their homes, their businesses, because again, that wind is so strong. The rain is so strong. The water, it could break windows and we want to make sure we stay safe. So I have a mystery Doug for us about hurricanes.
Hi, it's Doug. If you've ever played with a fan before, you know you can create wind inside. But I'm curious, what's the strongest wind you've ever experienced? Like, has it ever been so windy that you get knocked down by the wind? Well, someone named Caitlin has a question for us about one of the strongest windstorms on Earth, hurricanes. Let's give her a call now.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Caitlin.
I have a question for you. What makes hurricanes so dangerous?
That's a great question. First of all, what even is a hurricane anyway? This is the view of a hurricane from space. That's the hurricane right there. You probably know that a hurricane is a windstorm, but they're not just any windstorm. They're huge. That right there is the U.S. state of Florida. So a hurricane is as big as an entire state. A hurricane actually starts out in the ocean. Now, as long as ships avoid them out there, people are fine. It's when a hurricane reaches land that you get real trouble. As a hurricane gets close to land, everyone in its path is asked to evacuate, to get in cars and buses and leave, to try to get far away. But why? Do you really have to leave just because a windstorm is coming? What do you know about hurricanes? Why do you think they're so dangerous? Now would be a good time to pause the video and discuss. Okay, you ready? One thing you might have thought is, well, hurricane winds are really strong, right? But how strong? Strong enough to knock down houses? The answer is, they can be that strong. But it depends on the hurricane. Not every hurricane is the same. Scientists have divided hurricanes up into 5 different groups or categories based on how fast the winds are. In a category 1 or 2 hurricane, you might not even need to evacuate. But the winds are strong. You do have to be careful of things flying around. People often put boards over their windows in case anything flies into them. The worst kinds of hurricanes are category 4 and 5. These are hurricanes with winds as strong as 130 miles an hour. Here you can see this news reporter is having to take cover. And watch carefully behind him. Right there, you see that? That's part of a roof blowing away. Here's another example. Watch as the winds blow off, at first, the shingles on the roof of this house, and then the whole roof itself. Let's watch that again. The strong winds of a hurricane don't just blow roofs off houses. There's also another danger. Remember that hurricanes always start in the ocean. So as they arrive, those same strong winds have been pushing the surface of the ocean along with them, bringing ocean waves high up onto the shore. Normally, ocean waves just crash along the beach. But during a hurricane, the winds are so strong that it sweeps ocean water all the way up onto the land, causing flooding and sometimes knocking cars and debris into things. When hurricanes push ocean water up onto the land like this, it has a special name. It's called a storm surge. It's because of storm surges that people who live along the coast often have to build their houses like this. They build them up on stilts so that the water of the storm surge can pass underneath. It looks kind of funny, but it helps. There's one other thing that makes hurricanes so dangerous. The clouds. From space, a hurricane looks like this big swirling white pinwheel of fluffy clouds. It almost looks fun. But each of those fluffy clouds are actually giant rainstorms that are dumping tons and tons of rain. So hurricanes aren't just strong windstorms, they're also huge rainstorms. When it rains too much like this in a short amount of time, the land starts to flood. So in summary, hurricanes are so dangerous because of strong winds and storm surges that knock things over and cause flooding along the coast. Plus, incredibly heavy rains. The places most in danger from hurricanes are near the ocean, and people who live there may need to evacuate if a hurricane is heading toward them. That's all for this week's question. Thanks, Caitlin, for asking it.
All right, boys and girls. So hopefully those images also helped you kind of get a clearer picture of what a hurricane is. And again, we don't live anywhere near where a hurricane could form. Could you go on a trip and maybe there's a hurricane that would come? Yes, but you would know before you arrived that there was a hurricane coming because they can predict those. So what I'm going to have us do real fast is to go ahead and get out your types of severe weather book. The first page we already did on tornadoes. So if you turn to the second page, this is the one about hurricanes. And this could be a really fun page to color too, because you could color the blue waves. You can see that the trees are all blowing in one direction. They're not just hanging down. So it says hurricanes can blow water onto land. Okay, let's do it together. Hurricanes can blow water onto land. Awesome job, boys and girls. Tomorrow we are going to learn about blizzards. And blizzards are snow. All right, boys and girls, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Have a great day.